Have you ever kissed Jay-Z romantically?
No. No, I can't answer that. I can't answer that.
Oh, she's touching him off the neck. Look. You see?
Why do people not want to let the Jay-Z Blu Cantrell thing go?
Because, honey, that was a fabulous little high point in your career.
Well, what about Beyonce and Jay-Z? That's fabulous.
I said on the radio that I didn't think it would last, though.
What, me and him?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you're above 25.
Why? He needs somebody younger than that?
At the end of the day, yeah.
Why did you say that?
Because I think at the end of the day, a younger, less savvy to the ways of the world broad.
Somebody a little bit more naive.
Blu. The first Blu. Not they daughter Blu Cantrell. You were singing, boo. And you made a choice to work with someone, and you probably didn't realize how nefarious he was when you got involved with him. I didn't. Blu, it's time to talk. It's time for you to sing again. Because I know you still got the chops. You got the gift. Just like me. Jay-Z worked very hard to erase you and me. Just like he did Elle. Just like he did his relationship with R. Kelly. Just like he did his relationship with Aaliyah. Blu, it's time to...
Hold on tight, because what you're about to hear could unravel the image of hip-hop royalty. Blu Cantrell just stepped out of the shadows with explosive claims that could shake the Carter empire to its core. She's naming names, spilling secrets, and pointing fingers at none other than Jay-Z and Beyoncé. From secret affairs to a forced abortion and a career mysteriously cut short. Blu says her truth was buried for years by powerful people with everything to lose. Now she's done being silent, and what she's revealing is messier, darker, and more scandalous than anyone ever imagined. Blu Cantrell just dropped a bombshell that could shake the Carter empire to its core. According to the early 2000s R&B singer, she wasn't just a blip in hip-hop history. She was allegedly Jay-Z's secret lover. And not only that, she claimed she got pregnant by him. But before the world could know, Beyoncé stepped in and allegedly shut the entire situation down. That's right. Blu Cantrell is now claiming she was once entangled in a full-blown relationship with Jay-Z while he was already building his empire and his image with Beyoncé. The same Jay-Z who went on to marry the most powerful woman in music may have had a hidden love triangle swirling beneath the surface all along. And if what Blu's saying is true, it wasn't just about a fling or a brief affair. This was emotional. This was long-term. And it got very real when she allegedly found out she was pregnant. But here's where the story twists into something darker. According to Blu, Beyoncé, or at least her team, allegedly moved quickly behind the scenes. Phone calls, legal threats, and a clear message: disappear or face the consequences. Blu says she was forced to walk away from her career, her truth, and the child she never had, because protecting the Carter brand was more important than anything else. For years, fans have speculated about Jay-Z's infidelities. From the elevator fight with Solange to Beyoncé's cryptic lyrics in Lemonade, we've seen hints, but never names. Until now, Blu Cantrell just named herself. And if even part of what she's alleging is true, the Carters' carefully managed legacy might not survive the fallout. For years, Jay-Z and Diddy were hip-hop's untouchable power duo. From yacht parties in St. Tropez to boardroom deals worth millions, they moved like moguls side by side, both crowned kings of their respective lanes. But lately, something's changed. Jay-Z has been quietly backing away from his once closest industry ally, and insiders say the fallout isn't just about bad optics, it might be about self-preservation. When Diddy's legal troubles exploded into public view, allegations of trafficking, abuse, surveillance, and even secret settlements, many of his so-called friends vanished. But Jay-Z's silence was deafening. No public support, no denials, no defense, just distance. He didn't show up. He didn't speak up. And now people are starting to ask, why is Jay-Z running in the opposite direction? Some say it's just strategy. Jay-Z protecting his billion-dollar empire from Diddy's implosion. But others aren't buying it. Because if you dig deep into their shared history, things start looking murkier. Both men were tied to the same elite circles. Same parties. Same players. And with Diddy's former associates now flipping, some wonder if Jay-Z's public distancing is actually an attempt to bury any evidence that might tie him too close to Diddy's downfall. Then came Blu Cantrell's claims. A hidden relationship, a secret pregnancy, and whispers that Beyoncé, or someone in her camp, moved quickly to silence the situation. If Jay-Z was already working overtime to cover one secret from his past, how many more might be waiting in the shadows? The bromance that once ruled the industry is now stone cold. And the question hanging in the air isn't just what Jay-Z knows about Diddy. It's what Jay-Z doesn't want us to find out about him. Long before Beyoncé claimed her throne, and long before Blu Cantrell faded into industry silence, there was a moment in the early 2000s when the R&B world was watching two rising stars, one on the edge of empire, the other on the edge of scandal. Blu Cantrell burst onto the scene in 2001 with hit Up Style, a defiant, catchy anthem that catapulted her into stardom almost overnight. Her blend of beauty, raw emotion, and unapologetic fire made her a media darling and a label favorite. Behind the scenes, insiders say she quickly caught the attention of none other than Jay-Z, hip-hop's golden boy at the time and a rising mogul in his own right. According to music executives who were there, Blu and Jay-Z crossed paths constantly. Studio sessions, label meetings, award shows, she was climbing, and he was watching. Quietly, their professional encounters grew more personal. They were spotted at industry events looking very cozy. And while nothing was ever confirmed publicly, whispers swirled that their chemistry wasn't just for the cameras. At the same time, Beyoncé was preparing her solo breakout. Destiny's Child was beginning to shift, and there was no doubt that Beyoncé was being groomed for solo superstardom. Jay-Z had started gravitating toward her as a long-term partner, professionally and personally. But behind the scenes, Blu was already there, already involved, already invested. What people didn't know was that Blu allegedly believed her relationship with Jay-Z was more than a fling. She thought it had a future. Some even say she believed she'd become the only woman in Jay's orbit. But as Beyoncé's debut solo album began taking shape, the industry began making room for a new power couple. And Blu? She was suddenly nowhere to be found. What started as a promising connection between Blu and Jay became an unspoken rivalry, one that Blu never had a chance to fight. Beyoncé had the machine behind her, the timing, the image, and Jay-Z's attention. Blu was left with rumors, heartbreak, and a career that would quietly lose momentum just as Beyoncé's was igniting. Now, in hindsight, Blu's story feels less like a forgotten footnote and more like the opening chapter of secret history Jay-Z hoped the world would never revisit. If there was ever a moment when Blu Cantrell's polished facade started to crack, it was her interview with Wendy Williams, a messy, thinly veiled showdown that left more questions than answers. It wasn't just what Blu said. It was how she said it, and who she seemed afraid to name. When he came in hot, as always, direct, relentless, and clearly fishing for confirmation of a long-rumored entanglement between Blu and Jay-Z. Did you and Jay-Z ever date? When he asked, leaning in, eyes locked, Blu froze for a second, just a beat too long. Then came the smile. Tight, measured, the kind that hides more than it reveals. No, Blu answered. Jay and I, we were cool. Just friends. That's all. But her tone wavered. Her eyes darted. And if you watch the footage closely, you'll notice the way she shifts in her seat, suddenly less comfortable, less composed. It wasn't a firm denial. It was a performance. One that screamed, "There's more here, but I can't say it." Then came the kicker. When Wendy pressed further, bringing up Beyoncé, Blu let something slip. Something small but explosive. She said Beyoncé was sweet. Just more naive back then. Naive. That single word changed the tone of the entire conversation. It wasn't shade, it was a warning. A subtle suggestion that Beyoncé didn't always see what was happening around her. That she may have been a pawn in someone else's game. Possibly Jay-Z's. Possibly bigger than that. Blu didn't elaborate. She didn't have to. That one line opened a door to something darker. The idea that this love triangle wasn't just about romance, but about control. About secrets, manipulation, and power plays happening behind the scenes, where careers are made and destroyed in whispers. From that point on, the interview got weird. Blu got defensive. Wendy smirked, knowing she'd hit a nerve. And fans were left replaying that footage for years, dissecting every glance, every pause, every word. It wasn't confirmation, but it was enough to keep the rumors alive. Because sometimes the truth isn't in the answer. It's in the hesitation. For years, fans whispered about it. But now the whispers are turning into a full-blown theory. Was Beyoncé quietly borrowing from Blu Cantrell's playbook? The timelines are suspicious. The style's oddly familiar. And the tension? Palpable. Let's start with 2002. Beyoncé and Jay-Z dropped 03 Bonnie and Clyde, a sexy, dangerous anthem that introduced the world to their chemistry. But just a year before, Blu Cantrell had her own Bonnie and Clyde-style moment in the music video for Roundup, where she played a rebellious outlaw on the run. A coincidence? Maybe. But fans quickly pointed out the similarities, the rebellious lover's theme, the desert aesthetics, even the styling. The message was clear. Blu had already been that girl. And suddenly, Beyoncé was stepping into the frame with the industry's most powerful man on her arm. Then came Baby Boy. Released in 2003, it was a global hit, a hypnotic blend of R&B and dancehall. But fans couldn't help but compare it to the rhythmic, breathy vibes of Blu's breakout single Breathe. Both songs shared that sultry, airy delivery over dancehall-inspired beats. The sound wasn't just similar, it was eerily aligned. And in an industry where originality is currency, some started to question, was this influence or imitation? But the real eyebrow raiser? Beyoncé's Signs, a deep cut from her debut solo album that dives into astrological signs and romantic tendencies. Sounds harmless, until you realize Blu Cantrell is a Pisces, and Signs contains a very pointed line, Pisces be so shy, but it's something about them freaky things they hide. Was a playful reference? A hidden jab? Or a subtle dig cloaked in metaphor? For fans already looking between the lines, it felt like Beyoncé was sending messages through lyrics, cryptic little clues about rivalry, insecurity, and secrets. And here's where things get messy. Blu never directly accused Beyoncé of copying her. But she didn't deny the comparisons either. She let the speculation swirl. And over time, the fan theories only grew louder. On forums, in YouTube breakdowns, and deep in the Twitter threads, people started to piece together a pattern. A pattern that suggested Beyoncé's early solo identity may have leaned a little too heavily on Blu's aesthetic. Of course, in the mainstream media, Blu was painted as the underdog, the almost star who faded too soon. But behind the scenes, some believe she was the blueprint Beyoncé was quietly following and then quietly erasing. Because when you're building a brand as untouchable as Beyoncé's, there's no room for comparisons. Only silence. By the time Blu Cantrell sat down with The Guardian, she wasn't just dropping hints. She was firing shots. No more vague interviews. No more dodging the elephant in the room. This time, Blu had a message, and it was aimed directly at Beyoncé. The headline barely scratched the surface, but one quote made waves across the industry. If she goes there with me, it's the wrong move. A chilling, deliberate warning. Not a diss, not shade, a threat. And for the first time, the gloves were off. Blu didn't name names, but she didn't need to. Everyone knew who she was. The context made it crystal clear. Beyoncé, the queen, the icon, the untouchable. And here was Blu Cantrell, an artist long written off by the industry, standing her ground and daring Beyoncé to try her. It wasn't just about stolen sounds or unacknowledged influence anymore. Blu was implying something deeper, that there had been manipulation, erasure, gaslighting. That the story we've been told, the one where Beyoncé rises effortlessly while Blu fades into the background, was never the full truth. But Blu didn't stop there. She turned her sights on Jay-Z too. In a bold move, She addressed him directly, breaking the years-long silence between them. Her tone wasn't bitter. It was confrontational, like someone tired of being used, then discarded. She hinted that she was being made the scapegoat in a narrative carefully spun to protect reputations and consolidate power. She didn't outright accuse Jay-Z of throwing her under the bus, but her words suggested he knew what he did. That behind the scenes, Blu had paid the price for secrets she didn't ask to carry. Secrets tied to a relationship that may have meant something to her, but was never allowed to exist in public. Fans immediately picked up on the subtext. Was Blu threatening to expose something bigger? Was there more to her connection with Jay-Z than just a rumored romance? And why, after all these years, was she speaking up now? The fallout was immediate. The interview trended. Blogs dissected every line. Old clips of Blu and Jay-Z resurfaced. And suddenly, this wasn't just about old music beefs. It was about power, control, and what happens when the people who were pushed to the margins finally start talking. Blu Cantrell wasn't backing down. And with that one quote, "If she goes there with me, it's the wrong move," she made it clear. She still holds the receipts. 1 minute, Blu Cantrell was everywhere. Radio waves, red carpets, music videos burning up BET and MTV. Hit 'em Up Style was a certified anthem. Her voice was soulful, fresh, and unforgettable. Industry insiders were already calling her the next big R&B powerhouse. But then nothing. No major follow-up. No world tour. No flashy comeback. Blu Cantrell, one of the brightest stars of the early 2000s, simply disappeared. And for years, that silence was never questioned. She was written off as another one-hit wonder, another artist who couldn't keep up. But now, fans are starting to ask, did Blu really fall off? Or was she pushed out? Behind the scenes, whispers began to spread that Blu didn't play the game the way they wanted her to, that she got too close to someone she wasn't supposed to, Jay-Z. That, when Beyoncé's solo career started taking off, Blu's presence suddenly became inconvenient. A liability, a threat to a much bigger brand in the making. And then came the rumors of her being blackballed. Calls stopped coming. Deals fell through. Publicists ghosted her. It was like someone hit a switch. One day, she was rising. The next, she was gone. Some believe she was silenced. Not just professionally, but strategically. That someone made sure Blu couldn't share what she knew, couldn't tell her side of the story, couldn't derail the empire being built brick by brick around Jay-Z and Beyoncé. Others say she was punished. That stepping out of line, emotionally, romantically, or musically, came with consequences. And that Blu, whether she realized it or not, was caught in a crossfire she couldn't win. Because in an industry built on control and perception, being the wrong woman with the wrong man at the wrong time is enough to destroy you. Her vanishing act wasn't natural. It was curated, intentional. And now, with Blu slowly stepping back into the spotlight, talking more openly, giving interviews, calling out shady behavior, the question becomes, what kept her quiet all these years? And what would happen if she finally told everything? Because sometimes silence isn't failure, it's survival. And Blu Cantrell's disappearance might just be the biggest clue that she was never crazy, never irrelevant, just dangerous to the wrong people. By now, it's not just about Blu Cantrell. It's about the machine, the Carter Power machine. Because when you zoom out from the love triangle whispers, the shady interviews, the alleged plagiarism, and the sudden blackballing, you start to see a much bigger operation at play. One designed to control narratives, neutralize threats, and protect the billion-dollar empire built on the backs of Jay-Z and Beyoncé's image. Let's be real. The Carters aren't just artists, they're brands. Meticulously managed, obsessively curated. Every public appearance, every project, every piece of press is filtered through layers of handlers, strategists, and silence contracts. And in that kind of ecosystem, a woman like Blu Cantrell, loud, emotional, unfiltered, and allegedly involved, wasn't just inconvenient. She was dangerous. The timing of her rise and fall lines up suspiciously well with Beyoncé's solo ascent and the birth of the Bonnie and Clyde narrative that launched Jay-Z into pop culture royalty. Blu's proximity to Jay-Z, her sonic similarities, her subtle digs in interviews. All of it hinted at a story the public was never meant to know. And the fact that she vanished right as that power couple was taking shape, that doesn't feel like coincidence. It feels like containment. Because when you're crafting a perfect dynasty, you don't leave loose ends. You don't let former flames linger in the spotlight. You don't allow messy overlaps or alternate timelines to steal attention from the master narrative. You erase them. Quietly. Thoroughly. Permanently. And that's what makes Blu's resurfacing so chilling. Her recent comments, her warnings to Beyoncé, her defiant tone, it's not just drama. It's a crack in the polished marble of the Carter brand. A reminder that behind the glitz and Grammys, there may be a long list of stories, people, and truths that had to be buried to keep the empire clean. So now, the question isn't, is Blu telling the truth? The question is, how much of the truth have we been denied to protect the Carters? Because if even half of what Blu implies is real, then the world's most beloved power couple may be sitting on a throne built from other people's silence. And it's time we look past the gloss and asked, what did it cost to make them untouchable?